Seems to me that after last night's fiasco on Clapham Common, the vast majority of the Metropolitan Police Senior Command might well have done a Piers Morgan.
No one seems to notice me, isn't it a sin? Oh, what a crazy world we're living in. How's your father? Brown bread.
Afternoon campers on this not so pleasant Sunday afternoon. Appears I've upset a few people with my late night video last night regarding the fiasco on Clapham Common. So I'm going to do a little bit of explaining. I'm afraid, spoiler alert, I won't be doing any apologising. Okay, first of all, yes, we are in a lockdown. Granted, I understand that, but there are a lot of people on the one side of this argument who are saying we're in a lockdown, the government have said we mustn't go out anywhere, let's all stay where we are and not go anywhere until the government says that we can. And on the other side of that, we've got people who are saying, well, the vaccine has rolled out, all of the most vulnerable people who are likely to suffer the most and may lose their lives have now been vaccinated. We should be back open fully and getting on with our lives and getting our freedom and our liberties back. I don't have a foot firmly on either side. In fact, to be honest with you, selfishly, it doesn't make any difference to me. My current state of health means I actually can't go anywhere anyway. So who am I to have an opinion one way or the other? But I don't think that any of those things actually apply to what happened on Clapham Common. I think it was a gross miscalculation that actually started earlier on in the week. The people that were organising the vigil, mainly as a sign of respect to Sarah Everard, the young lady who so tragically lost her life, but also as a awareness, bringing awareness to how unsafe, in their case, women feel. But I would go so far as to say actually it's most people, but in particular probably young people, who are more likely to be out and about in the evenings on London streets, who don't feel safe because the streets are not safe, and they're not safe because it's mispoliced. So they go to court, I believe it was, or to whoever, to apply for the permission to hold the vigil, and it was denied. So that's strike one for me. Whoever it was that denied that is the first person that should be looking to resign this week. Because if it's okay to grant permission to pointless organisations such as Black Lives Matter, such as Extinction Rebellion, and any other pointless woke organisation you can think of, it's okay to grant them permission to have their protests while there are lockdown restrictions, then it was a no-brainer that this one should have been granted as well, especially doubly so under the circumstances in which that young lady lost her life. That just tells me that whoever it was that made the decision not to grant the permission certainly isn't woke. They're in a, I nearly swore then, I try very hard not to swear on here, but they were clearly in a coma, so out of touch with what's going on. So that's where it starts. Then, when it took place anyway, and from what I can understand, the original group of people that organised it weren't actually there. But when it was obvious that it was taking place, whoever it was that was sitting in the commander's chair at that point should have said, look, we've got to use a bit of common sense here. Tensions are already running very, very high. We've got it wrong so many times before. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of fines that have been administered and then reversed by the courts because actually nobody knows what the law is and what the law isn't. So let's use a bit of common sense and just stay well away. Keep your eye on it from a distance. Make sure there's no shenanigans, there's no violence, there's no destruction going on. And if there's not, just leave well alone. That would have been the intelligent move to make. Unfortunately, when it comes to senior police officers in the Met, we don't have any intelligent people. So, next head on the block, Cressida Dick. Should never have been in that job in the first place. She's a total waste of space. She's there because she's a box ticker. I know there are people out there who believe that Priti Patel should also take the blame for this. Now, unless I'm very much mistaken, I was under the impression that policing in the capital falls under the purview of the mayor. I know somebody else that does a lot of videos, Alex Belford. Got a lot of time for Alex, I have to say, so I'm not questioning his knowledge, because it might be superior to mine, but he's saying that Priti Patel is responsible for this. And if that's the case, then yes, she also needs to consider what she's done wrong and whether or not she's to stay where she is. My impression of her is that she actually says all the right things, but she's constantly shouted down by those that are terrified of this wokeism, if that's a word, and the cancel culture, which is dangerous at best, and we need to be shot of it at whatever it takes to get rid of it. But a massive clean out needs to take place in the Metropolitan Police. You should be ashamed of yourselves. I was a little bit encouraged when Torag Khan came out today and said he's not happy with the explanations, and then I thought, yeah, but we're getting very close to a mayoral election, so he's probably only saying that to at least look like he's paying attention. Nice work if you can get it, isn't it? It's that sort of job that would do me, actually. Every 5 years you just have to look like you know what you're doing, and then you get re-elected and sit back and let all your lefty mates get on and do all the decision making for you. But yes, he's quite right. But lastly, I have to say, the police officers themselves that were involved last night. Look, you might be serving police officers, but above all else, you're human beings, and you should have a tiny little bit of compassion and a tiny little bit of common sense, and realise that it's one of your own that is currently under arrest and charged with that dreadful, dreadful crime. Common sense dictated that you should have taken a back seat, looked from a distance to make sure there was no criminal damage, there was no violence, but other than that, kept your noses out of it, because what you did and the way you acted, I have to ask whether or not all of that was proper Metropolitan Police, or whether it was these, what they called, we used to call them special constables in my day. They was basically just jumped up little pillocks that couldn't join the proper police force, but they give them a pretend uniform and a plastic badge and send them out to play cops and robbers. And some of those are the most vile people you could ever wish to meet, because they're megalomaniacs. That's why they're doing the job that they're doing, most of them. Not all of them. Granted, I'm being a little bit generalistic there. But, so that's where I stand on it. Yes, we're in a lockdown, but no, that shouldn't have happened last night, and no, it was not the fault of the people at that vigil, not by any single stretch of the imagination. It's another example of common sense prevailing, and if we do not see at least 3 or 4 resignations, or better still, sackings this week from the Metropolitan Police and whoever is part of that process of granting or denying permission for protests, then this is a very, very bad week for what's right and wrong in this country. Enjoy what's left of your Sunday. I'll see you later on.
How's your father? Brown bread.